Hey guys, this is Andy with Get Your Wellies. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about this. This is shade cloth and it's very helpful to protect your plants. So we'll talk about it, but first of all, why don't you get your wellies, meet me in the garden. Well guys, it's almost noontime in the garden today, and as you can see over here to the right hand side, this area is starting to get shaded. In fact, it's really these okra plants down here and the beans at the end, all of that's in shade, largely from this tree up here, but also from the fence. And so this is good to show that sometimes you do have structures or trees that give you times of the day where it's going to be more shaded, and you can use that to your advantage with certain crops. Now on this side, this is my sweet potatoes. These like more sun, and the left hand side tends to get more sun during the day, but there is some shade from the tree that will work its way around later in the afternoon. Of course the flowers really like the sun, zinnias like it, and these are sunflowers coming up behind there. So these like more sun. If you have a garden that's big enough for you to plan using the shade, and I would say especially for things like tomatoes or peppers, they really like some dappled light and not just extreme heat all day long. So we've seen these tomatoes on recent videos quite a bit. They're doing quite well. This one here is the Chadwick cherry that's just kind of gone wild, and I want to talk a little bit more about that on another video, about maybe that's the right way to grow that, but we'll talk about that later. But as you can see, it looks pretty healthy. It's bushy, it's good, it's growing well, and that's the case for most of these plants over here. Now for the varieties that don't tolerate being out as well, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see leaf curling, and this is it is a sign of stress, but this is the plant's natural way to reduce the surface area and therefore not lose as much water through evaporation, and it just helps to protect the plant from the sun. Another thing you'll see when it gets too hot for your tomatoes is the flowers will either not pollinate because the pollen gets sticky in the heat, or they'll just plain fall off. And now as long as the plant stays healthy, once the temperature comes down a bit, those flowers will come back. You'll start to see new flowers on there. Now these are some of my Amish paste tomatoes. They are under the shade cloth. Now this is a 50% shade cloth. These plants are not really suffering from the heat at all, and they're big. They're growing actually in pots. I've taken quite a few off of here and I'm saving them up, freezing them to make salsa. That's a really great thing to do with paste tomatoes. Again, still looking pretty good here. This one on the edge, this actually is getting pretty much full sun right now. But it definitely gets more sun than the ones that are further in over here under the shade cloth. So this is obviously evidence that the shade cloth really helps with these plants. This particular variety probably would not do well in full sun. Now the shade cloth I'm using, I'm trying to get this in focus, but it's quite difficult at the moment. I think the camera should be able to do that. But each of these shade cloths, they come in different percentages of reducing the amount of light. So this is a 50%. I would say you could go to 60 on the high end. You could go lower and do like a 35 or 40%. But 50, this one has actually been on this canopy each year for the last 3 years, so it's doing quite well. In fact, one year I left it out the whole season, and there's a little damage on the corners, but overall this is, I want to say it cost me probably $18 for a 12 by 14 shade cloth, and it's lasted 3 years, and probably would be able to go a couple more, and certainly if I folded it up and took it in every year, that would extend the life of it, obviously. 50% seems to be about the sweet spot for me. 50% shade cloth seems to give the tomatoes, and that's primarily the plant that I'm using the shade cloth for. I am wanting to keep some of the heat and the radiant heat off of these plants, and so it does reduce it quite a bit. If I stand under here, I mean, it's hot out here today. We're cruising around 90, I think, right now, but standing out in the full sun is noticeably hotter, and you know, we don't like it. It's likely that your plants suffer as well. In fact, visibly they certainly do. This is a view from a little further back. So what I did, if any of you are interested in what actually is going on here, I put the tubs and buckets underneath, and I've mostly done buckets, rain grow gutter system. When I first started, I'm kind of moving more towards the big tubs. You can see a few spots on the corner where the cloth is worn a little bit, but not bad. It's still holding up quite well. So this is actually set over a canopy. They sell these canopies at all over the place. Academy, Walmart, I mean pretty much all the big box stores have them. This one was about $40, and I just took the blue top off the top, fitted top, and just put shade cloth on instead. So that's a cheap way of doing it. I did elevate this a little bit with some cinder blocks just so I can walk under it more comfortably, but even the plants here at the front seem to be liking it, the basil, and letting that go to seed. And then I put another tomato out that's been in desperate need of going out, some Beta Lux. I don't really see a disadvantage of using shade cloth unless you're just getting lots of shade from elsewhere. Then you may be starving your plants of enough sunlight. But what I would suggest is that you just keep an eye on your plants wherever you put them, and if you start seeing leaf curling, dropping flowers, not growing fruit from the flowers, then I would recommend trying it. I think it's been very helpful. It's not a very expensive addition. I mean, I don't really need that canopy. It's kind of, I like it, but I mean, I could have just tied that off to trellises and surrounding fences and used it in that way, and it would have been even cheaper. If you follow some of the other gardening channels, you'll probably see this used, and some of them have talked about it as well. I have one other video I think I did talk about this shade cloth, but I haven't really seen what it could do yet. But I would recommend it for sure. By mid-afternoon, this will mostly be shaded on this side. This is the right side, but looking the other way, so it's the left of my screen right now. But then again in the evening it will actually get some more sun for a little while, and then the sun will set down behind the trees over there. So this area I think is probably not in need of shade cloth, but over in the middle part of the garden over there, it just really helps. And you will find this in multiple different sizes, from long rows to big square and rectangular shaped ones. You can find something that'll definitely work in your garden for your needs. So check that out on Amazon, and thank you so much for coming to the channel today and visiting with me and having a little look around. And thanks for listening to me about shade cloth. I'm a big believer in it, and I think if you've got an area that needs some shade and you try it, you'll be very pleased. So until next time on Get Your Wellies, bye now.